All right, hey everyone, welcome to this week's Q&Andy episode. Listen, I know at this point you've probably listened to Tuesday's episode with the Larry Stefanki, and we are going to double that shit down. He is here to answer the questions that you sent in. So without further ado, coach to many of the stars that we have loved for the past 30 years, Larry Stefanki. Sean, what have our listeners sent in?
We got a first video question from Mitch from Racket Lifestyle.
If you could describe that experience with Andy, how would you describe it? What phrase, what word, maybe what movie would you call the Larry-Andy relationship? And second part is, with some hindsight, going back, and if you could do it again, if you will, what would you do differently? What would you add? What would you take away? What were maybe some missing components that you wish you would have done that could have taken Andy across the line in a few more tournaments?
Heavy.
What movie?
Forget the movie. Good. Focus on the other stuff.
Okay. Well, I think Andy answered. Okay, first of all, that guy's hairdo. What was that all about? I like that. I should get something like that.
I would do terrible things for that mop.
Well, if you could have been together with him to start his career, because he came so much farther over the 4.5 years. That has actually been told to me a lot. That I only wish that you started with Andy earlier, and I do too, because of our personalities, what how we gelled together, and we're all pretty much on the same page. That was the easy part of just starting with his career. I think he would have attained even more, in my opinion. But geez, the first part of the question of the movie. Okay, what is that? Pulp Fiction?
Jeez, yeah, that's obviously.
Yeah. Who knows what would be going on one side, the other side? No, but no, Andy and geez, we accomplished quite a bit. Okay, and it was just not 2 points on Wimbledon, by the way. Anyway, 1 point. That way, yesterday, believe it or not, I looked at that fact sheet. First time in my life. Okay, in 14 years. I don't know if you remember when we talk about serving. He had 50 aces.
Mm-hmm.
You had 27.
I know.
That's the only time in your career you outplayed him, and that was one that in sports you got to live with, and that was tough to swallow and stomach, but it did show how much and you improved and the confidence that you gained from doing the hard mile, the hard work, and not afraid to work on your game to get better. A lot of these kids think, oh, I make a lot of, I don't need to play that much, and blah, 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 and they're not very good. And you weren't one of those guys. I mean, you just wanted to be able to be in the arena to make sure that you had a chance to win slams. And I really appreciated that ride for you. And it's hard to find that chemistry now. They say it, but will they live it?
Like just to levels, I went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 6 to, by the time Larry and I got together, I was 8 and maybe heading the wrong direction, and we got back to 3. Some Master Series wins, Miami, almost won Wimbledon. So there was a large reset, but also there's the lesson I'll take from it is, one, self-awareness matters, right? I understand that I had some success on tour, won a bunch of Master Series events, been number one in the world, all this stuff. And also that's just not where the game was going. And the hard look in the mirror was I actually can't just go through someone every day with what my body was allowing me to do. When Larry and I got together, he says I had a good serve, but it was 10 or 15% less than what it was in 03 or 04. The shoulder hurt more when I was trying to clean a forehand flat than it did when I was coming around. I don't know. It's one of those things where does not winning 2 points when you're not the favorite. And by the way, I wasn't given a chance in hell of beating Murray that tournament.
That's right. Well, Hewitt, you escaped. With a half volley up the line backhand, in the
forehand,
fifth,
it was looking away, yeah. And then Berdych before that too was what a night. That was a nightmare. Anyways, I don't think we can it was. Any coach understands the work that was done. So what would we change? I can't think of much we would change besides a result. And that's not a change in process. that I don't have any regrets about how we went about it or what we did. Maybe you think differently, but I don't look back and say, if we would have changed this. I'm saying if we wouldn't have changed this, we wouldn't have had to look at the basket, in my opinion.
I think we did pretty much all we could possibly do mid, because I jumped in mid-career. Near the end, you were kind of going down, that way, that direction, but you cinched up, changed direction.
Yeah, it takes a confident coach to jump on an anchor. Sean, what's the next question?
And luckily we had Brooklyn. Okay, because everything I'd say, Brooklyn would get it in the back, and I'm saying, oh my God, because Brooklyn, she'll tee it up with old Andy. Okay, so and that's why I love her to death, because she was no back off.
I fear two people, Larry Stefanki and Brooklyn Decker. What's the next question, Sean?
All right, speaking of Brooklyn Decker, we have a question from Brooke.
Oh fuck.
Please explain the term Starch Ball and Flimflam.
Can I set context here? So I need you to define. This is great. Starch Ball, we explained in the big episode. If you haven't heard it, there's a clip up, I'm sure, or just listen to that episode. We already went through the full Starch Ball and Qatar situation. So Larry has all these, like, we call them Larryisms, where you don't know what the fuck he's talking about, and then a month later you fully understand what he's talking about, right? So he'd be like, "Oh, this guy, that's just batten down the hatches. This guy's a flimflammer," and that kind of meant that, like, maybe he was not disciplined, or maybe he would get tired, or maybe. So can you once and for all and it's a term we still use today, just once a week.
We still.
What is a flimflammer, Larry?
The flimflammer. Okay, flimflammers, are an individual that will speak, but not match it up with where they're coming from. So you got to put in the work, and so you have to be able to not just say it in words, but you got to match it up in that you've done it before, or some sort of. Otherwise, it's just words, okay, and it doesn't really mean anything. So I like truth tellers in the sense of, oh, that guy did the hard mile. I don't care if it's Emerson, Higueras, Andy Roddick. Okay, those guys are not flimflammers. Okay, those guys backed it up with not just words, with actions. Okay, and that's why I call a lot of guys flimflam. I go to that tennis now, and it's like every other guy's a flimflam. Okay, and I don't even know where they come from. Okay, I'm thinking, who are these guys? Okay, they're all experts. Everyone's an expert, but they have no credential to back it up. So that's a flimflammer. Okay, and then the other thing is the starch ball. Andy forgot to say, when he had that thing in a plastic, he threw it against the wall. Okay, he said, "You're always blowing all the fun," and he threw it against the wall, and the thing splattered everywhere.
You know how hungry you have to be to throw a muffin when someone tells you can't have it? You ever thrown food out of hunger?
No, never.
No.
3 a.m.
in Qatar, about to fly to Melbourne.
That's right, 3 a.m. Yeah, and fly to Melbourne with a starch ball in his stomach. Yeah, but the flimflammer, yeah, you need to have, otherwise, don't say anything. Like Andy says, if you say something, Larry, you better be able to back it up with a couple facts in the end. Just don't say something and that's what he always says to me. We go this, and he go, and by the way, Larry, please stop saying so much on the practice. Give me one thing to work on today. Just left leg on the back, left. Okay, but don't say left leg back, because my brain doesn't work that way. Okay, I like one thing a day. I said, okay, that took a little while to get, under, because most people can process a little more than just one thing. But with guys that are at his, it's actually smart, because information overload is no good. Okay, when it comes to it's a long road, it's a long novel.
The old flimflammer. What do we got next, Sean?
All right, we got a question from David. On the professional circuit, many coaches did not compete at the same level as the players they train. In those cases, how do players come to trust the advice their coaches give?
Good question, Sean.
It's not from me. It's from David.
From David.
I know. David.
It's a great question.
Good question. Great question. I don't know. They could read it in a book, look on the internet. I coach these people. I said, so never heard of you, these juniors. He goes, no, I'm a soccer player, but I learned how to coach on the internet. I went, what?
I have a question for you, just because I know where you're going to say, and you're going to say, like, it doesn't exist. And part of me agrees. Is it different specifically for tennis? Because you look at someone like like an Eric Spoelstra in NBA, who's probably the best active NBA coach, and he started in the film room with the Miami Heat, and he's coached absolute legends and egos and all of these things. Is it specific to tennis? And if the answer is yes, why?
Well, I just think it helps. If you've played at any type of level, of a higher level, it really helps in being an expert and knowing what the individual is going through, knowing that you've been there before and experienced that. And this is kind of like, okay, I'm not saying he's a flimflammer. I'm just saying that if you really haven't gone through, you're missing a part of the equation. Okay, it helps in the sense of your credential as a coach and who you studied under. I was lucky that I had all these great players to learn a lot from, and I asked a lot of questions. But I also had a guy that I learned an awful lot from, who coached Don Budge in 1938. Yes, and when it comes to footwork, fundamentals, taking the ball early, and being in control of your destiny. And Tom Stowe was someone that I worked with for 2 years after I turned pro. I actually started at near the end of my senior year at Berkeley. And I look back at it now, and it was the greatest thing. I said, who is this guy? This guy's old, blah, blah, blah. But this guy knew. And then JB was the one that hooked me up with him, along with my brother. And I didn't, after 5 weeks with Tom, I said, I'm leaving this guy. This guy's an old hat. He doesn't know.
Flimflammer.
Dick. Okay, I flimflammer. And JB goes, let me tell you something. He calls me, and I told him, I think I'm leaving. He goes, no, you're not. I said, what? He goes, let me tell you something. You think you know a lot about tennis? This guy knows more about tennis on one finger than you know about tennis. You're not leaving him, because I've watched you, okay? And he can really help you, Larry. So you're not leaving him, okay? And John was the one that this was after I left Berkeley. I was already a pro, okay? And I said, okay, that's how much I trusted John. And it was the greatest thing I ever did, sticking with him, Tom, because he taught me an awful lot that I didn't know at that time. And so that's why when we talk about, you had a question earlier about the coaching of another player, I think, if they want to go on the road in the circus, I could really help them and educate them what it's going to take. Andy doesn't believe that works. I know that, and I don't believe it works 100%.
I don't know. I mean, we worked because you didn't want to travel as much, but you also didn't have to babysit me to train when I was home.
That's right.
So I don't know that we would have worked when I was 18. Like, Tariq was all over me all the time. So I think different things work at different times. I was at that point, I knew how to work, and I knew I wasn't going to skip because Larry wasn't there. So I think that works. Sean, what else we got?
All right, we got a question from Ophelia. You were talking about learning from your coach Tom, but we're going to flip it. So Ophelia asks, looking back, what's the most important lesson a player that you used to coach has taught you about what it means to be a good coach?
Oh, good question.
I ask a lot of questions with people that are great. Okay. And like I said earlier with Johnny Mack, when I first started with him, he had really fallen, just inside 30 in the world. And to get him back, I looked at a lot of films, and I would bring stuff up. And, his standard was so high. I know he would just say, I don't miss it, Larry. See this? I hit every ball right here. And that was his standard.
That's got to be nice.
It was like, and Rios the same way. They hit it in the middle of the racket every single time, and the ball is ripping. And that was a different generation, Rios from Mac. But when he started coming back, he played Jonathan Stark in Toronto, and it was a Master Series. And he had, won his first round. I think he beat, someone like Woodford or so. I don't remember who. Okay, and he's playing second round against Stark, and it's a fellow Stanford guy. He's up 6-0. 5-1. No, 6-0, 5-0. Johnny against Jonathan Stark. He's just beating the living crap out of him. Okay. And I knew Jonathan, and he's just
big
starting
serve.
As a pro. Yeah. Big serve. Yeah. Big serve. And so he's just, taking balls like this and coming in on every ball, and Starkey's just totally overwhelmed. And Mac has, I think, 15-30. He comes in with a backhand volley and misses it long and smashes his racket in a million pieces. Okay, no, in a million pieces. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this guy's lost his flipping mind. So after the match, we're in the locker room, and I go up to him. I said, hey, Johnny, what was that? He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, well, his fellow Stanford guy. I thought maybe, you want to beat him 0-0. Okay, he goes, what are you talking about? He said, no, Larry, you don't understand this. You don't understand. Okay, that ball was an easy backhand volley on top of the net. And it's totally, you know how he is, totally unacceptable to miss that ball. And you know why it's unacceptable? Because that could have been at Wimbledon final. Okay. And so when this carries over, that's one of the biggest lessons I ever learned of standard of excellence. Every point matters. Borg had it, Mac had it, certain guys, it was totally unacceptable. Okay. And so I played team tennis with Bjorn when he came back when he was 36 for the LA Strings. I was a player coach and we played doubles. I started talking about it. I said, hey, Bjorn, do you remember when you played Terry Moore in the quarterfinals of the French Open? He goes, oh, Larry, of course I remember. I said, okay, you go into the press conference. We're all in the locker room. You beat him 6-0, 6-0, 6-1. It's 6-0, 6-0, 5-0. And all of a sudden you go forehand in the net, backhand in the middle of the net. And then you threw that game, didn't you? We got really good friends. He goes, no. And he says in the press conference, no. I dare you say I would lose a point and throw a game. That would never happen. And he, when I got to know him 10 years later, 36, he retired at 26. He says, we're at a bar in nowhere, Baltimore, playing team tennis. And he says, I throw the question because, we had a couple drinks, this and that. Okay, a couple hundred. Okay. And he says, Larry, of course I threw the game. What do you think? You think I missed a backhand in the net or a forehand in the net? I never miss in the net. I said, I knew it. We all said you threw that game. He didn't want to beat him 0-0. Okay. And so you talk about certain individuals and the standard. That was one of the greatest things. These guys, they played every point like it was their life depended on it. And that's how they played the game. It wasn't like this, this thing that they do and they're kissing their arms and when they hit a good shot. Okay. I don't understand that whole deal or this, more applause, please. I mean, what are you doing? Okay. I like to see the actual event unfold as that's my entertainment. Like when you see Alcaraz and certain things he does, you go, holy crap. What is that? This
Sean,
guy's, unbelievable. And
Sean,
then other ones you go,
Sean,
like this.
Sean,
Sean, give me.
Okay,
Yeah.
after you've done giving me more applause, can you give me another question?
We got our last
So that's
question.
Last one. The old last one for the old Larry Stefanki.
This is a video.
Flimflammer.
This is from our friend Yernar. It's a video question.
Hey Larry, Marcelo Ríos is my favorite player in history. Please describe working with him and coaching him in one sentence.
Oh,
geez.
telling Larry Stefanki to do anything in one sentence is a fucking challenge. I'll just tell you that much right now.
Born with a gift. Only two players I've ever coached that were born with a gift, came out of the box to be able to redirect balls and a twisted mentality.
You're Kelly laughing.
But wow, when I got on the court with him, what he could do with the tennis ball, this kid, he didn't like to compete. People don't know that. He was not a competitor. He loved to kind of embarrass people with tennis, but he didn't look forward. That's why he went from one to oblivion so quick, because he had achieved his goal and then literally plummeted. I've never seen anything like it, but I kind of knew it because he couldn't stay on point.
Did he actually care what anyone thought about him, or was that a front? Like you get the feeling like he's like, oh fuck, I don't care, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks. Is that real, or is that just a cover?
I think he was so insecure that it did bother him.
He I'll tell you my quick story and tell me if this is like, so you hear all these things about players, and like when you're coming up, you know people's reputations before you actually know who they are, and sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. Right? Like sometimes someone will have, like Andy Murray's an unbelievable example of someone who was young and had a reputation. He would like complain. He'd be demonstrative. I was the same way. Like I'd break shit. And it was like, but then like the more you get to know Andy Murray, the more you think of him. Right? Like you respect the tennis. Like when he was 18, I couldn't have told you that he was going to be one of the hardest workers that I've ever seen in this game. Right? So sometimes you're pleasantly surprised. Okay. And you're like, the closer you get, the more you like it. So Rios has this reputation.
And funny.
Hilarious. And he's
hilarious.
He's the kind of guy where you're going to get a joke like 3 days later that he told, and you're like, that's the smartest joke I've ever heard. But I play Rios in 01 in Miami, right? And I'm 130 in the world, and he's seated, 20 or whatever. I play him. Every time I played him, I beat the pan. Like I liked playing him. And it was after, whatever. And so
you beat Sampras earlier.
Yeah, so that was later. That was the next match. So
okay, the next match.
So so we shake hands, and he stops, and he says, "Hey, really well played today." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Okay, so we go off, and I'm like, okay, that was unexpected based on reputation, right? So I'm like, oh, and so I, told a couple people later in the day, a couple of my friends who were like playing qualies, whatever. It was like, he was very nice. Like he came up and then he went up to Tariq afterwards and he said something nice. And I was like, oh, that's like, okay, well, listen, the guy's nice to me. You can hear everything you want, but until it's lived experience. And then I'm at the old bagel shop the next morning, Larry, and there's a front page of the paper, and so it's like this was a big upset in the Key Biscayne, and it's like the local thing, and I'm on the front, and so I kind of combed through the article as I'm eating the old bacon, egg, and cheese that you wouldn't have liked.
Yeah.
And the quotes are like, this kid fucking sucks. He's only a Serb. He's the worst.
Yeah. The worst. He can't play tennis.
I was like, okay, I understand.
That's him in a nutshell.
Yeah,
him in a nutshell, right there.
I understand that. Anyways, Larry, anything else? You got any questions for us, Larry? Like, you got anything else?
No, love doing this. John, you're the greatest.
Thank you.
No, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I love spending time with old Andrew because we haven't spent much time in the last. Jeez.
We had dinner 2 years ago. I think it was we had that dinner a couple years ago in San Diego.
That's right, La Costa. That was great.
We're coming out. We're doing an event at Rancho. We later in the year, so you'll get the old 4 days together. Anyways,
bringing the kids?
You know what? Yeah, they're coming. So
okay, good.
I think the world of you. I think tennis needs more of you. I don't like that we don't hear from you very often.
Not very often.
I wish
you'll find me out here on my tractor.
I had to guilt
mowing
you.
The lawn.
I had to guilt you coming on. So
I know. I said no. But I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
It was
rehashing these stories.
Hey, Larry, how are you? Can you come on and do this thing since I spent a half hour doing an interview for you last month? He goes, no.
You did. Yeah, I knew. It's always reciprocal. That's it. Reciprocation. That's it.
Anyways, Larry, love you, man. Thanks for your time this week on Served, and I hope we get to see each other soon.
We will.
Cheers, bud.
Okay, thanks. It's been a lot of fun.
All right.
Bye.